Hi all and welcome in this video about how to build Metro Design GUI with PowerShell. First, sorry my English is not very good, but I will try to do my best to correctly explain you how to proceed. First, who am I? My name is Damien Vorobey. I'm a system engineer at Saint-Gobain. I'm also MVP Microsoft. You can see here my Twitter, my blog, and my mail. You can send me mail to ask me question about WPF, PowerShell GUI, or whatever else. See here a short summary about what we will see in this video. Can also find a GitHub repository in which I will upload all example I will show you in this video. You can also find a PowerShell GUI and the WPF Facebook group I created a few months ago. In this group, you can share your knowledge, share your example of GUI in WPF or also form. You can ask for help or share links or whatever else. Don't hesitate to join this group. So let's start. Before talking about WPF, I will talk quickly about Form. What's Form? It's the name of the graphical class library included in Net Framework. Form allows you to create easily GUI. You can use software to create your GUI for your PowerShell script, software like Primal Form or PowerShell Studio or many other. You can create with using this graphic tool your GUI easily. Since Net Framework 3, the form is replaced by WPF. So now let's talking about WPF. WPF is Windows Presentation Foundation. It's since Framework 3. WPF is used to create a GUI-like form. WPF uses the XAML language, which is a language based on XAML. Why you should use WPF according to me? For me, WPF is easier to read, easier to create. WPF is easier to maintain. There are also fewer lines than in Form. We will see that in the next slide. And you can also add a theme like Mahapps or Elysium, which is theme with Metro Design. So you can add very cool design to your GUI using WPF. Now let's see a short GUI and compare code between Form and WPF. So see a short GUI composed of a group box, a label, a button, and a text box. See here the code to create this GUI with Form, and see here the code to create this GUI with WPF. We can compare lines, and for Form there are 27 lines, and WPF only 11. That's why I told you that there are few lines in WPF to create your GUI. So understanding the WPF, as I told you before, WPF can be used with Visual Studio or also Microsoft Blend, so you can create easily your GUI with software like this, and also XAML to build your GUI. In my case, I always use Notepad++ to create my GUI because I don't like to use graphic software to do this. WPF uses XAML language and can be used with two files to use it with PowerShell, one XAML file and one PS1 file, or you can include it all in one PS1 file. Start with WPF in Visual Studio. In the Visual Studio, you have to create a new project. So start a new project, select WPF application, and that's all. In Visual Studio, always is composed. Visual Studio is composed of three parts. toolbox part in which you can find all control you can add in your GUI. There is also a design part and the XAML part, the main part according to me. Now, how to add control to your GUI? It's pretty simple. You just need to add to you to pick control and put it in your design part like this. So this is control. You add it in your GUI part, and then the XAML part will be automatically updated. So XAML, what is it? XAML is an extensible application markup language. XAML is used to display the graphic part of your GUI. XAML works with tag, like the tag button in the below example. It works with attributes, like in the below example, the attribute content. The attribute content allows you to give a name to your control, in this example, to your button. See below the overview of these two control. So we have the first tag button, which allows you to create a button, simple button like this, and the text box, which allows you to create a simple text box. Control in XAML. There are many control like inform. First, display control like label, which is just a simple text. Data grid that allows you to gather information. List view, which looks like to data grid. Also input control like text box, password box, uh, choice control like radio button, checkbox, combo box, navigation control like tab control, and also simple action control like button. XAML also allows you to customize the window like with HGA. For instance, you can choose where you want to display the GUI in your screen. You have to use the Windows Start application attribute. For instance, if you set the value center screen, it will display your GUI as the center of your screen. You can also use the Windows style attribute to give different design to your GUI. For instance, GUI with border, GUI without border. There are many other values. So now let's see what's a stack panel. A stack panel is for me one of the main parts you have to understand to learn XAML. If you correctly understand stack panel, you will be able to create many kind of GUI. So what's stack panel? Stack panel allows you to gather uh, child control, uh, which will be integrated in the stack panel. For instance, in the below example, I have two label control that are integrated in main stack panel. Stack panel allows you to change quickly the orientation of multiple control, also horizontal or vertical. For instance, in the example, um, my two label are located at the center. If you want to move all these label to the left, you just need to modify the horizontal alignment attribute from center to left, and then they will move all together to the left. Uh, if you want to move all your GUI to the top, you have to use the attribute margin. The second value allows you to move the space between the your control and the top of your GUI. So uh, change value 20 to 0 And so all my control will be moved all together to the top. If you want to move, for instance, the label position, my label are located side by side. If you want to move the label 2 below the label 1, you have to modify the orientation attribute from horizontal to vertical, and so my label will be moved um, below the other. Uh, Using stack panel, there is no need to add position of the control in the GUI. Um, if you add stack panel, there is no need to add position to each control. That's for me main parts of the XAML to learn. With stack panel, you have to play with the orientation, vertical and horizontal. It's really important for me to correctly understand this. In my case, when I create GUI, I first draw it on a paper, and then I imagine how I will create it, and I will dispose my control. As I told you, I only use Notepad++ to create my GUI. For me, the advantage of a Notepad++ is that you will understand better how works the stack panel and the XAML behavior. For instance, in the GUI here, um, I have two parts that are located side by side. How to create this kind of GUI? It's pretty simple. I have my main stack panel that gather all my control. Then I have one horizontal stack panel that gather two vertical stack panel. It's pretty simple to understand, but you will have to play again and again for me with GUI, and you will be able then to create a GUI just like you want to do. Then, see here a simple GUI that we will use to update then with different theme in order to show you the advantage to use theme like Mahapps or Elysium to give a very cool design to your GUI. So this GUI is composed of a combo box, a text box with button, three checkbox, two radio buttons, one tab control, and one data grid. Then we will update it with different theme to show you the different design of the GUI. Then, how to map the XAML file with a PS1 file? It's pretty simple. In the PS1 file, you have to use this part to load your XAML part. It will load your graphic part. Just replace the XAML part with your files. Then you will have to declare your control in the PS1 file, just like this. Each control are declared in my PS1 file. Action and control, how to bind action to a control. An action is done on a control like button, radio button, or whatever else. A control is mapped to an action using the XName attributes. For instance, the below control, the below button, use the XName attribute here with value button to add the action on our PS1 file. So this button is in my XAML file. In my PS1 file, I have to declare my control, as I explained before, with the same name declared in the value XName. So my button has for name button1. So in my PS1 file, I have to declare a control button1 like this. An action on a button is done using the event add click. So to add an action to your control, after declaring your control, you have to use this kind of code with the event at click, and then in the at click part, you just have to put your action. With a control like combo box, checkbox, for instance, you can also use the event add selection change like this to add an action and the control change. For example, if you check the checkbox unchecked, it will apply a different action. How to hide our display control? For me, it's an important part to understand also, because you can do many things with this kind of attributes. So you can display or hide really easily a control or a group of control. To do that, you just use the visibility attribute. The visibility attribute contains three values. Visible, it's used to display control. In the example part, use the visibility like this. For instance, in the radio button, uh, the value hidden to hide a control, or collapsed also used to hide a control. Um, you can also use this attribute in your PS1 file. In my case, I use the attribute in my PS1 because I add I hide or display control um, with an action and a button for action. For instance, I click on a button and that display or not a control. So to use the visibility attribute in a PS1 file, just add the visibility attribute to your control button and add visible value to display control or hidden or collapsed. Uh, Difference between hidden and collapsed, we will see that just after. It's pretty simple. The hidden value keeps space between your control and the collapsed value hide space. In my case, I always use the collapsed value. Hide or display a control in action. To display just one control, you can use the visibility attribute directly on the control. If you want to hide or display multiple controls at the same time, I recommend you to use the visibility attribute on a stack panel to add the visibility attribute to the XName attribute in the stack panel. See below a short theory I have done to explain you the difference between hidden and collapsed. See here the example part used to display the GUI. As I explained you, to display or not a group of control, I recommend you to use the visibility attribute to a stack panel. So I devised my example part in three stack panel. The first stack panel is used to display the two label here. The second stack panel is used to display the first button and first text box, and the third stack panel is used to display the second button and second text box. So uh, when I click in the radio button, I will update my stack panel X name. And in the difference between hidden and collapsed, excuse me, I will display only the last button and last text box. So the visible radio button will display all the stack panels. So I add the visible value to all my stack panel. When I click on the hidden radio button, you see here, see the action on the hidden stack panel. I display only the last control, last button and last text box. See that with the hidden value, all blank are still here. If we use the collapsed value, we will see that the button and text box will move to the top. See here the blank space. Now with the collapsed value, button and text box will move to the top altogether. See here the action in my PS1 file to do that. Now we have see how to hide the display control. I will show you how to add a theme to a GUI. It's not really theme, it's more a toolkit. It's a really mm, great job done by a developer. I will show you two themes, Elysium and Mahapps. This will give a better look to your GUI. Another advantage is that you have many documentation on the web, especially for maps. So what's Elysium? Elysium has been created by Alexander Vishnyakov. See here the website at the download link. To add Elysium to in Visual Studio, you have to go to the NuGet Package Manager and use the command line here, install package Elysium theme. To add Elysium to your XAML file, replace the first and last tag window with Metro window, then add the two lines below in the Metro Windows part here. And to manage theme and color of your GUI, just add this three line in the Metro window part, like this. To add Elysium to your PS1 file, just add this line in your PS1 file at the beginning. Now we will add the Elysium theme to our first GUI interface. See here the first GUI. Then with Elysium, this will give this kind of design, like this. If needed, we have to modify a control size because with Elysium and Maps, control are a little bigger, so you have to modify the control size. If you need a new color on your control, it's pretty simple. Just modify the control color in one click. So you have to modify this part. By default, it's in blue. If you want to move to show your control with red color, just change blue to red like this. For orange, change blue to orange like this. Pretty cool, pretty simple to do. Now, what is Maps? Maps has been created by Paul Jenkins and is now maintained by Jan Kager with MVP. See here, here's GitHub. There are many updates on GitHub about Maps. You can also find the website of Maps and the GitHub repository. When we talk about Metro Design, we think about Windows this. Windows this like this. You can think it's a Windows 10 computer, but it's not. It's just a WPF GUI I've done with PowerShell and Mahapps. It's in order to show you how Maps is powerful. You can add many control like in Windows 10. I will show you that after. You can also find this kind of GUI in my GitHub repository, in the GitHub repository of the video. So how to install maps in Visual Studio? It's pretty simple. Like for Elysium, go to the NuGet Package Manager and use this command. You have to get the last DLL file to use your latest control in your GUI. To get the last DLL file from Visual Studio, build the project and get the last DLL in your build folder. How to integrate maps in your XAML file? Replace the first and last Windows tag by Control Metro window and add the below line in the Control Metro window part. You have to add also resources below this part, to add, for instance, icon, to change the main theme of the GUI or the control colors of the GUI. To integrate maps in your PS1 file, just add this line in your PS1 file. Now we will add maps theme in our first GUI. See here the first GUI without any theme. Now with maps, we will have this kind of GUI. as for Elysium, we will have to modify control size. So now, if you want to change the color of the control, just change this line. By default here it's in cobalt. If we want to change the color of control to red, just change cobalt to red. Just like this. It's pretty cool and pretty simple to do. If you want to change cobalt to orange, just put orange value like this and it's pretty cool. Now, if we want to change the main theme of the GUI, just use this line. There are two themes available, base light and base dark. See here, the base light theme with the color control. Now, if we change base light to base dark, it will give this kind of GUI. See here, base light GUI with a red color, and now a base dark GUI with a red color. You can add multiple kind of design in your GUI with just 2 clicks. It's pretty cool. Now I will show you multiple of my favorite control I often use in my GUI. First, the tab control with WPF. See here an overview of the tab control. It's a navigation control not exclusive to Mahapps. See below the main XAML part used to display this kind of control. The tab control here could be displayed where you want. By default here, I display it to the top. If you want to display it to the left, just change the tab strip placement attribute to left like this, and the tab control will be displayed to the left. If you want to display it, for instance, to the bottom of your GUI, just change left to bottom and the GUI will be displayed just like here. Now, the batch control. What's the batch? It's an information control, like in Windows this kind of control, which show you a number of notification. It can be applied on tab item button on whatever else. It can be displayed where you want on the control. It allows you to display, for instance, number of error in the event logs for a specific delay, number of missing driver, like this tool, which has been done by my mate Kevin. You can find the download link of this kind of control. This tool will show you the missing driver on your computer with a badge that will display directly how many drivers are missing. Now, how to use badge, how to modify value, color, and location. See here the XAML part used to display a badge and the code I use in my PS1 file. As mentioned before, you have to add an attribute xname to your control in order to add an action in your PS1 file. So I declare my control in my PS1 and I can add an action or a value to my control. To add a value, a number to your badge, just use the badge attributes. It will give this kind of design. So my button and my value 0 to my button. If I want to change the value of my button, for instance 5, I change 0 to 5 in my badge attributes. If I want to change the color of my badge, I use the badge background attribute. I change blue to green like this, and this will give this kind of GUI. Now, see here an example of code used to display the last error found in the event log, and this will display uh, different badge notification. For instance, if there is an error, the badge will be displayed in red. To modify the location of the badge, you have to use badge placement mode attribute. By default, sorry, it's top right. If you want to move it to the top left, just change to top left, and this will give this. To change to bottom right, up like this. To change to the top, it will display it at the middle of the top of your button. Now I will show you one of my favorite control, which is the flyout. What's this? Flyout is this kind of control that you can find in your Windows disk computer. How to use it? Flyout is a control to activate from button. You have to this part, this XAML part, to add a flyout to your GUI. The action in your PS1 file to open or close the flyout is used with the attribute is open. So I add a next name to my flyout, and then in my button I open it by adding true to the is open attribute or false to the is open attribute to close the flyout. You can also display the flyout where you want. For instance, at the top of your GUI, at the bottom, at the left or right. For that, you have to modify the position attribute from right to top, bottom, left, or right. Now we'll add a flyout in our testing GUI. Uh, we will open it using the settings icon here. This will give this kind of GUI. By default, with the position right, this will give this. If we move the position to left, this will give this. If we move the position to top, this will give the flyout like this, and bottom like this. It's pretty cool to use. No, the tile control of maps. What's a tile? Tile are this kind of controls that you can find in the Windows disk R8. It's a Metro Windows 8 or this design. Uh, Action and tile are like for button. You can also do this kind of GUI with tile. It's a PowerShell GUI I did, and you can find it in the repository GitHub. So to display a tile, just add this XAML part in your GUI. The tile is a simple control with different attributes. We will see that. You have to add also a next name to add an action to your control. Digital font size to change the size of your the text, background to change, the background color of the size, height, and width to change the size of the tile. So if we want to change, for instance, this is a tile display with this code. If we want to change the background color, we have to modify the background attribute from red to blue, for instance, like this. If we want to add a text in our tile, we have to add the title attribute like this, and this will give this. If we want to add an icon, we have to add a rectangle like this with this with an Internet Explorer icon like this. If we want to change icon, change just this part like that with, for instance, another icon like this, and this will give this style. Now, if we want to change color of the icon, change the fill attribute of the rectangle from white to red, for instance, like this. If we want to change the size of the icon, change the height or width value of the rectangle part like this. This will move the icon size. If we want to change the tile width, just change the width attribute of the tile like this and this will move the width. If we want to add a background image to your background picture, sorry, to your tile, add the image bridge part in your tile like this, and you will be able to add a picture in your. One of my favorite part in with maps is the dialog. What's dialog? Dialog is this kind of design. It can be used to replace your old message box to display a simple message, or for instance, it's a real good Windows 10 design. You can display simple message or confirmation screen or login screen. You can see also more information in this link. Now, how to use Dialog? First, you will have to get the latest DLL files from Mahapps. Then you will be able to use Dialog. To display a simple dialog, just use this part in your PS1 file. To use a dialog confirmation, you just use this part in your PS1 file. To display a dialog login, use this part in your PS1 file. You can find this kind of example in the GitHub repository. Jan Kager has also done a nice tool called XAML that will allows you to edit easily your XAML file. You can find it at this link. Uh, you can also find a nice video from Jerome Bizitores who explain how to use XAML to add with the Mahapps theme and also a material design theme. I will show you after a little tool I did with PowerShell to upgrade your WPF GUI in order to add the Mahapps theme. This looks like this. You have to browse your main project to select your main XAML file, to select your main PS1 file. You can select the theme you want to apply and the color you want to apply to your control. Then you will be able to update your GUI. You can find more detailed posts on my blog about WPF and GUI, and also a very nice post on the blog of my mate Kevin, who did a really nice job about WPF and also Mahapps. A nice post about PowerShell and WPF. You can also find nice links on the Fox Deploy website, Booprox, Mahesh Chen about WPF layout, and also very good stuff about WPF and deployment on the Trevor Jones website. So now the PowerPoint is finished. I will show you in example the different sample I show you in this presentation. You will find all this folder in the GitHub repository. The first folder, GUI to update, contains the GUI I share in the PowerPoint with and without maps. So without maps, native WPF, it will look like this, with combo box, checkbox, radio button, tab control. It's pretty cool, but it can be better. Let's see with the maps now. Maps, Cobalt, like this. Okay, in Cobalt. Now, pretty cool. Now, if you want to change from Cobalt to red, for instance, you have to modify this line, Cobalt to red, and this will change the color, like this. Pretty cool, yeah. If we want now see the base dark color, we see base light, now base dark in red. The theme I explained you. Now with Flyout enable here, I have to change the width of the flyout. So the flyout is displayed of the right. If we want to display the flyout from the left, just change the position attribute from right to left like this. And ta-da! Now if we want to change from the bottom, we'll have to change the width from height like this. And here below. From the top, it's the same thing. Now let's see with dialog. Uh, Flyout also here, complete. Now the dialog is enabled on the button browse. This is a simple dialog. Now, if we want to change this kind of dialog, in this file, PS1 file, you have the simple dialog. Now I will enable the confirmation dialog like this. Can find it on the GitHub repository to test. Now we will test it directly. Browse. Oh yeah. Continue. Yes. Now I click on console. Oh, I click on console. Now let's see the login screen like this. So after setting my login and password, I will display password and login in a simple dialog. Let's see that. Type your commercial user password total like this. Now see here the complete GUI I did, which looks like to Windows 10 computer. See here. So it looks like this. You have the start menu. You have also a right click button like this. All these are just a flyout. So just imagine what you want to do. Flyout, 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 and flyout. Can also add control to some button like this to close the GUI. With credential, click on OK and the GUI will be closed. In the control folder, you will find some different control I share with you. The tab control, I've seen that before. It's data grid, how to use data grid and add content to a data grid. I add a XAML content. You will find the code in the PS1 file. How to use the tile I share in the PowerPoint, and a GUI with badge and button, badge and tab control, badge and button with icon, and badge location. In the stack panel, this is the GUI I show you to explain how to use the stack panel. Attributes is a folder that you will be able to use hide or display control. So the visible attribute or visible value for visibility attribute, sorry, the hidden value, and collapsed. Now see the Mahapps upgrader tool I created in PowerShell. So we have this GUI. did with WPF and without maps. So we want to add maps to our GUI. Just choose the tool like this. Oh yeah. Now we will browse to this folder. So, oops, browse to and check like this. GUI Mahapps upgrader, and we will browse to our project. Now the combo box will display all XAML file. So we will select our main XAML file. The PS1 combo box will display all PS1 file contained in the folder. Uh, you will be able also to change the theme and choose another color. There is a button that will allows you to display a testing GUI. So I will display a testing GUI with base light and red color. Just click on the button and this will display a GUI in a few times. Ta-da! Like this. Now if we want to display the testing GUI in blue, change accent to blue. Ta-da! Now another example, blue to pink, for instance. It's just to have an overview of what will looks like your GUI. Now I will choose to use base light and pink color. Now, so I have to update my XAML file using this button, and now my PS1 file. That's all. Now just click on the test my project button. This will launch your first GUI, and now your GUI has been updated with maps. As explained before in the PowerPoint, you have to change the control size of your GUI. For instance, add change the height of the group box. So now the presentation is finished. Don't hesitate to send me mails to ask me question or whatever else. I will also do some other video, really short video about each part, and I share in the PowerPoint. For instance, a short video about Start panel, a short video about hide or display control, etc., etc. So bye.